Still to come on the morning show, a new Florida bill has been approved in the wake of recent reports of child abuse. We're going to talk with Jim Clark after the break from Daniel on how that bill will protect children. Next. Well, child abuse gets reported over 80,000 times a year, but the number of unreported instances is far greater because the children usually are just too afraid to tell people what happened. The controversial topic has grabbed top headlines over the past few months with the alleged sexual abuse by former assistant football coach at Penn State, Jerry Sandusky. At least 8 men in that case have come forward claiming Sandusky abused them while they were just boys. In the wake of the scandal, a Florida House committee approved a bill that would impose hefty fines if college administrators or police do not report child abuse or neglect. We'll talk about this. Jim Clark, CEO of Daniel Kids, is joining us this morning to talk about all this new legislation. Also, can't forget Casey Anthony.
You can't forget Casey Anthony, and those of us in the field always think we're appreciative when attention comes to issues of child abuse, issues of children's needs. We're very appreciative of that. And that can be good and bad. You know, right now we're in an election year, and there's lots of things that suddenly happen because of in the media that we suddenly now have new legislative laws that often are not really thought through very clearly. And in fact, across the country, many of Kaylee Law's legislation are starting to get stalled because people are thinking, hey, well, wait a minute. If you are a parent of a 13 or 12-year-old who you've been having trouble with and you know where they're at, you potentially could have a felony and some prison time.
The Kaylee laws are for parents who don't report after a certain amount of time, usually about 24 hours. You have to report if your child's missing or something has happened after a certain amount of time.
That's correct.
And we're seeing all these states going forward with these proposals.
That's right.
You seem to think they're a little bit of a knee-jerk reaction.
I want us to be careful. Similar to the sexual perpetrator laws, what we did, we instituted things that were children who were experimenting perhaps sexually, now they're perpetrators for life. The same thing with some parents who are having very difficulty with some children. Do you 24 hours a day absolutely have to know exactly where they're at? So we want some reasonableness with those laws. And frankly, the House has been really looking at this and has come out with more sobering last week. In fact, the Judicial House came out with some more reasonable expectations and rulings that we think are going to be more practical.
Well, it seems that politicians and lawmakers want people to be more accountable from Sandusky and from, of course, the Casey Anthony trial and the whole case we followed the last couple of years. You pointed out during the break, the devil is in the details. I mean, every scenario, every situation is different.
It absolutely is, and that's where we want to be careful of not having families suddenly involved in the system. I mean, just because there's some domestic issues or some family issues doesn't mean that we necessarily have to have the police involved or child welfare involved. Indeed, families need support, and really what I want the legislation to pay attention to, or legislators to pay attention to, is that $48 million that they cut last year from Children and Services, or that 500 people that they let go. Those are the things that are going to prevent child abuse from occurring.
Well, let's look real quick. We have about 30 seconds. I want to put up this graph that Jim provided us because it shows an uptick in all the reports in the last really decade or so from 1998. These are the number of reports, and you see obviously it's going up.
It's going up.
But that doesn't mean it's happening more. That just means more people are coming forward.
That's correct. There's many more laws in terms of mandatory reporting and protocols, and that's one of the things that we see. We see a lot more people reporting, a lot more investigations, and a lot more being closed unfounded. But again, it's something for us to pay attention to and inform the public, and we need to put our money with prevention and not intervention at the end.
Jim Clark, CEO of Daniel Kids, thank you so much for some good information.